I must say I'm very flattered and charmed that people should write comments so quickly the moment I posted something, and I think I ought to respond. I think in the case of Ozturk and Zegler, there are comparisons, and it's a mark of this increasingly reactive era that two women, one a doctoral student, the other a Hollywood actress, a Broadway actress, should both find themselves at the centre of firestorms for expressing concern about the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza. Neither Rumeisa Ozturk nor Rachel Zegler, as far as I can see, endorsed Hamas. Neither called for violence. What they did, one through I think in America they call it an op-ed, I would call it an editorial, the other through a now deleted tweet, was to acknowledge the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza using language that many may find proactive, particularly with the use of the term genocide. I don't think Zegler used the term genocide. I think Ozturk definitely did. And yet this expression of grief has been treated in both cases as a subversive act, and that seems extraordinary. Yes, I think it's wise if you're in another country to be cautious about whether you criticise the other country, but neither Ozturk nor Zegler criticised America. They were criticising Israel. And even then, I don't think they were specifically criticising Israel. They were both supporting Palestine. Let's start with Ozturk, a doctoral candidate at Tufts. She co-authored a student newspaper article over a year ago criticising Israeli military action and raising the spectre of plausible genocide. That's something which has been claimed in a number of newspapers around the world and a number of television broadcasts. It's not new news. The piece was controversial, yes, but it fell within the bounds of academic free speech. And America is surely, the American Constitution is surely predicated now on the idea of free speech. Free speech is in the Constitution in a way that it isn't in the UK. And yet, under the aegis of Marco Rubio's State Department, she has not only been arrested and denied access to her medication, she's being held without charge in an ICE detention centre in Louisiana, and the director of her university says that her visa has been revoked. So in other words, she's about to be deported. The White House claims without evidence that her views represent a threat to US foreign policy. The statute used to justify this, the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952, is a Cold War relic. It grants sweeping powers to revoke visas on vague grounds of national interest. It's being weaponized to conflate political dissent with terrorism, which is not only a threat to immigrants but a chilling precedent for American civil liberties more broadly. Rachel Zegler's case is a different kind but similar in principle. Her tweet, written in solidarity with Palestinian civilians, led to corporate panic at Disney. The studio reportedly flew a producer, this man called Platt, over to New York, hired a social media consultant, restructured the entire promotional campaign for Snow White, not, it seems, to protect free expression, but to protect a $1 billion investment which was already in trouble. And the problems with Snow White are not Zegler, though I don't think she helped herself by criticising, or at least implying criticism of the film, of the film itself, or at least raising some of the issues about the film's wokeness, or however you want to describe it. I don't think she actively promoted the film, which probably is what she should have done. Whether she can be held legally responsible, I don't know, but certainly going out of its way to blacklist her seems unfair, and particularly to do it on the basis of this tweet seems unfair. Zegler's critics, like Jonah Platt, the son of Mark Platt, have castigated her as selfish and narcissistic. He went so far as to accuse her of stealing the spotlight from the film. No, she is the film. She was Snow White. But there's deeper hypocrisy here. The same company that hired Zegler as a symbol of inclusivity has now condemned her for expressing moral concern in public. She was punished not for promoting hatred, but for making some people feel uncomfortable. That's not a crime, that's conscience. And the underlying issue is the same in both cases, the conflation of political expression with partisan danger, especially when that expression dares to challenge prevailing Western narratives on Israel. There's no requirement to agree with Ozturk's or Zegler's views, but to equate those views with support for terrorism or with trying to sabotage a film is intellectually dishonest and politically dangerous. Indeed, Ozturk's article, which predates the current wave of White Horse deportations by a full year, has now been retrofitted to suit the optics of a new, harsher policy under Trump. This is revisionism, masquerading as national security. Zegler's tweet, meanwhile, has become a scapegoat for a failed film, which many of the criticisms, CGI dwarves, weak script, awkward casting, predate her comment. Blaming her alone is both bad analysis and worse ethics. Hamas is a terrorist organisation. It's right to be vigilant about extremism, but it's not terror. It's not terrorism to grieve for the innocent, or to oppose occupation, or to use the language of human rights, even if that language is politically loaded. We ought to be able to distinguish between legitimate criticism of the state and illegitimate attacks on a people, between expression and incitement, between solidarity and sedition. Both Zegler and Ozturk may have been politically naive, may have been politically unwise to speak without caution, but political foolishness is not a crime, and the price of sympathy for Gaza is to be cast out of academia or blacklisted in Hollywood. Well, then we are no longer defending freedom. We are curating ideology. The appropriate response to controversial speech is not arrest or erasure. It's argument. It's rebuttal. And it's the courage to live in a society where disagreement is not equated with disloyalty. We need to defend that society before it slips away. We need to be prudent, we need to be careful, and we need to make sure that we're not causing offence where none is intended, but we should be having those discussions. I'm very proud that that things that I raise here lead to discussions in the comments section. I go through the comments. I put a heart next to almost every comment I see because I want to encourage people to actually leave their opinions, even if those opinions are the opinions of bots or what's the word shrills. It doesn't matter because they stimulate debate. And that is a positive, isn't it? And some of those comments I will pick up and discuss more openly, or indeed leave comments of my own beneath those comments. But I think that's good. To promote debate is good. Promote debate rather than imprisoning and incarcerating people. That must be good. And finding out where the problem lies. That must be good. You can only find out where the problem lies by discussing and by questioning the evidence.